how's it going? Could you please talk about incorporating outside notes into playing? Certainly. Kind of what this is all about, I suppose. Let me get a little bit of this reverb down a little bit. That was a little excessive, but I kind of like the way it puts you in the place where you have to deal with some stuff here. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, let's say we were talking about, thank you for the question, and thank you for tuning in if you're here. So out of a D Dorian vibe, outside notes that we can bring to bear. Flat 2 coming up into the 2. Really kind of a nice sound, right? So usually used in the gliss. So we would hear it like this. Like that, approaching up into the 2nd degree. Inappropriate content warning. Oh, well, I don't know. So hey, I didn't see that. The YouTube does prompt me to ask whether or not this is designed for kids, and so if I'm stupid. So if I don't press no, it's not for kids, I guess perhaps that's why it's labeled that way. I'm not participating, so I don't see what you're seeing. So one of these days, I'm sure I'll iron out the kinks. I'm just kind of spitballing here between lessons. I'm kind of here until yeah. Sorry, Alex. So I'm here. I have a 3 o'clock, I believe. I can't remember what my schedule is today. Actually, no, I'm free until 4 o'clock today. So I figured I would sign on and you know, give people an opportunity to check out in office hours and see what they think. So, but I could have sworn somebody asked about utilizing outside notes. So let's go back to talking about that rather than the strictures of creating a live stream on YouTube. When we're looking at, you know, a Dorian sequence, okay, right? We've got the 6 and the 2, or the 9, depending on which octave you want to be in. Flat 7, flat 3, 2, 6, 5, and 1, right? So that's going to sound like this. Okay, so the notes that really scream Dorian is the 6. And the 2, okay? So for me, the notes that I use to bring in the outside tension are the approach tones into the 2 and the 6. All right, because that doesn't sound too out. Using the major 7 into the root, I definitely do that too. As I come down, I'll try to do it right here, like that. Like that from time. Okay, so utilizing it like that. So that's using that as an approach tone, weak, strong, okay? I don't think it really sounded so good there, but down here it sounded good. And using this flat 5 is probably the single most powerful addition you can make to your Dorian playing. Now, it's not that outside to my ear because I grew up playing, like, let's say you heard this, you could just play D blues, right? Right? Okay, so what are we using all the time in blues is that flat 5. So if you include flat 3, 2, root, flat 7, 6, 5, flat 5, 4, flat 3, you get these 3 strings in a row, okay, with symmetrical fingerings. Okay, and that allows for some really interesting sequential ideas. So we can do, you know, string skipping. Or we can use the more inside note here, and then bring the flat 5 to bear. Whoop. Okay, so D, C, and B, I believe, are what I'm playing in the lower register of that little loop there. So when you get to the part where you're hearing that B, try approaching from B flat, and it sounds kind of nice. So that's another gliss up. Picking depth. Yeah, man, for sure. Now look, okay, so I believe what you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how much pick comes. Yeah, no, let's talk. So how much pick am I sticking in? Obviously, that's bottoming out, right? What are you thinking about when you're string skipping? Is it a pattern, or are you following? Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about pick depth. Now, tone tends to get thicker with the more pick you have on it, but I don't flat pick. I usually am up on the leading edge on a downstroke and on the back edge on an upstroke. That said, I do tend to allow more pick to hang. My hang low is a little bigger than the average bear, I'm told. No, a lot of people I know, they kind of get way up on the nub. I'm definitely more like that kind of vibe. Okay, so I like a good amount of pick to stick out, and that's, I think, you know, from playing a lot of acoustic guitar. So when I bring my acoustic chops really did, you know, get into my right hand. When I took 5 years off from playing electric and only played bluegrass and acoustic music, and it really it fucked up my electric technique a little bit, to be honest, in that I stopped muting as much as I used to, and I had to start to bring my hand back down onto the guitar rather than coming up in sort of a supinated, or I guess, yeah, well, I don't know, not this, but this, okay? So I was up like that, playing so that the guitar could breathe, but electric guitar playing, you have to get your palm down. So I tend to use a little bit more depth than the average person, but I definitely pick between two pickups because I don't like hitting the pickup with the pick. And I'd say I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch or so, so maybe like that when I'm picking. So I don't know if you can't really see the string, so hold on. I'd say I'm like using that much pick, but again, I'm up on the edge, okay? Outside, okay, how did I do that string skipping thing? Right. I was thinking playing descending thirds, okay, along the Dorian pattern, and then including that flat 5. And that in and of itself sounds pretty dope. So what I did is I switched the string, the B string, to up here. So whenever I was going to this note, I jumped up here. Instead of, and then, so I just literally treated the G string like it was the B string. Because that's where I would have gone, again, to the new string. So D Dorian. Skipping that string can get those wider, more it's like a slightly more jarring bit of angular playing to your lines for sure. Any other questions? What else was, I can't remember what else got thrown out there, but the string skipping thing, and you can do that, by the way, you don't have to do that here, you could do it here. That was just one. Something like that. That last thing wasn't really a string skip, but here, skip, skip, that's a skip. Okay, it gets that kind of, it's a little jarring, but it sounds really kind of cool. Okay, so this idea of hitting a note and bending right back up into it, a la Jeff Beck, so key when you're doing that kind of slow, those kind of slow, more emotive kind of playing. I think it's really important for people to learn how to do that. And one of the tricks I teach, well, it's not a trick, I'm still figuring out what pick angles between the picks and pickups, etc., that feels comfy for me. All right, well, look, if you got a Strat, I mean, a lot of people swear by being back here so you can get at the controls. I tend to want to be away from the controls, and that's why I pick up here. You said your playing needs to, god damn it, the comments disappear so fast. I wish I could really see what you wrote there again. You need to use more notes, that's what it said. That's rare. Most people are told to simplify their playing, and I'd be interested to hear what you play like. But if you need to learn how to play more notes, my suggestion is that you take a more melodic playing, as opposed to what, just jumping up and down the scales and stuff like that. Fishy fish, is that what you're saying? So the way to get more melody is to not play sequential, not sequential, but literally like notes in a row. Don't play a scale. Scales very rarely have that. They're usually more like. Repeating yourself, utilizing like part A, and then using A and add a little something to it. So like if you started out a solo like this, check it out. Starting each of my phrases with that, like that kind of thing. First time seeing you live. Thanks for all the Grateful Dead lessons, man. Yeah, thanks, dude. Mighty Vapor. Yeah, you know, I love the Grateful Dead is a good touchstone for this kind of for my playing, in that I really do like a lot of the theoretical discussions that happen around that music, and Grateful Dead fans are obviously just the type of people that would tune into a guitar channel over and over again. I don't know how many people are really like avid David Lindley fans or something like that. There's only so much discussion I can do about, you know, some of my other favorite players. But Garcia, he reinterpreted his work, you know, every day, you know, of the year, pretty much for, what is it, 35 years, you know, just cranking and cranking and cranking, or 30 years. I mean, it's a ton of recorded material, so it's like an endless sausage for me to be able to discuss, and the same song evolving over the course of that time. So you look at an early I Know You Rider versus a late I Know You Rider, or something like that. Do a lot of my students talk about Mayer? A few do. A few of the younger cats do. They came by way of Dead & Co. rather than the Dead. And I don't mind that. I think John Mayer is a real motherfucker. He's a great guitar player. I imagine they probably do. Yep. So yeah, so younger cats definitely fell into that, and I have no problem with that. I think John's arc of understanding Jerry's approach and everything like that has been evolving in a great way. I think he's much better today than he was, whenever he started playing with the band. The first time I heard him play, I felt like he was kind of approaching it too much from his wheelhouse of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and consequently kind of toughened up the sound of the Grateful Dead rather than that ebullient, celebratory, major blues. So it's like rather than going. He was still playing. Right, and so consequently it made like tunes like Truckin', instead of it being like like that, he was like yeah, that's okay. So Sugary is another example. I don't think it necessarily works out so great when he does that. I would prefer to hear more like that. And he does a lot more of that kind of thing. More now, I think he's playing more like, if I had to be critical, I'd say he's like drawing too much on Clapton and B.B. King and that major pentatonic Freddie King sound. Garcia really was influenced by Freddie King, obviously, but I think that he's just a little too reverential to people other than Garcia, oddly, when he's playing Garcia's music. I wish sometimes he actually quoted a little bit more. Hartford 77, I always try to figure out how Jerry plays that part around 9 minutes in on. That part is fantastic. I wish I knew that, doesn't have as much blues, at least the recent performance. That's true, right? Checking in during lunch breaks. Thanks for the live streaming again. Hey, no worries, Eric. It's good to see you, Professor. So, that's my take. Mayer has been a work in progress, and as critical as I may sound, I hope nobody takes it that way. I feel like he's, first of all, he's definitely the best guitar player they could have had for the project, because he kept it alive. He drew an entire massive amount of people back to this music and revitalized it in a way that, if Cadillac or any of the guy from, any of the tribute players, including somebody like myself, I don't think I would have had the balls to actually, go away from it. And I didn't think Trey sounded, as awesome as Trey is, don't get me wrong, I don't think he sounded so good at the Fare Thee Well shows. I thought he sounded kind of out of place and a little kind of like non-committal. So like that's, granted those were probably thrown together a little on the fast side, but what a blessing to actually have, that music still around and actually thriving. Say what you want about the slower tempos or the old guys doing the thing or the crazy ticket prices. The music is still there and still turning people on, and that's a beautiful thing. Who would have thought? I could have never thought it, and I don't think anybody in the band could have foreseen that happening. And who knows? Maybe after Bobby puts up his spurs, maybe John will continue doing summer tours with more of an emphasis on this music, and he can do it at the tempos that he probably is capable of doing that Bob doesn't want to do, or who knows? Or maybe he'll just hang it up himself. Althea's a hell of a tune, dude. That's a heck of a place to start with the Dead. I believe that was actually Mayer's favorite one. I actually sing the praises of the recorded version off of Go to Heaven quite aggressively. Anybody who'll listen to me thump on that Bible, boom boom boom, check out the version off of the recorded version. That album stinks. I'll give you that. It's got 3 good songs on it. It's got Alabama Getaway, which at the time I didn't think was that great. But now that I listen back to it, Garcia's fucking burning on that. Althea is so subdued and chill. And then the solo on Don't Ease is really, really good, even though the rendering of the song is a little, kind of uber polished in the same way that some of the work on like Terrapin Station is a little too buffed up for my tastes. The band, it's kind of tough. Hey, saw City Field and Broad. Yep. So that was about when I saw him. It was in, I think, 17 or 18. And by then, I think that Johnny had really figured out how to get the most out of his mixolydian and major pentatonic playing over top of situations. And it really started to figure out that if you're playing a tune that is, that we don't want to hear a lot of this. Like if you're playing Scarlet Begonias, right? And over top of... You don't want to be hearing... It's too rock, it's too tough. So, or in particular Sugary again. I don't think it sounds good to hear. I want to hear more. Maybe on the E chord, sometimes it's fun to do the little flat 7. Let's get rid of that echo. Where you go. So lots of chromatics and chord tones. That's good. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really do think John Mayer is super, super talented guy. And thank goodness for him, because he brought all of his friends to the party. And they dig it. They dig it. They're there, and, never seen so many cute, well, actually, there was always a lot of cute girls at Dead shows. And how do I play the chord changes smooth and tempo on a tune like Bertha? Well, the good news about Bertha is just two chords. I don't play the version with the... I don't do the bridge version. Let me do a loop, and we'll talk about Bertha a little bit. Oh, sorry, get rid of that ambient thing. 1, 2... So the cool thing about Bertha is you're very welcome. So check it out. So you can play into the changes, you can play on the changes, or you can play ahead of the changes. And Garcia on Bertha takes the latter approach. Okay, so rather than going on the beat to the chord, that would be playing like on the change. Okay, then you can play through the changes where you're kind of playing and then you just kind of intimate the chords have changed. He actually starts playing the C sound well before the downbeat of the C chord. Okay, so over top of the G chord, we're hearing... Oh, so let's take it out of the chorus, right? I had to move. Really had to move, that's why I'm on my bare knees. Bertha, don't you come round here anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That little is all C blues. That note has nothing to do with the G chord we're playing over. Hear that? I mean, that is... It's the flat 3 of the 4 chord we're about to play into. So watch, you'll hear it, right? Okay, so let's say this is where the solo would start. The funny thing is he's starting to play the C blues before that's the downbeat of the C chord. Okay, so he's playing ahead of the changes, and what this does is it creates a shit ton of tension over top of the back half of the G chord. Sorry. It's hard to hold it. If I do this, there we go. Releases into the C chord. So anymore, and then watch here. Okay, then he does it again up here at the top. Bends up to that C over the ending of the G chord. So you'll hear it right here. 1, 2. Yeah, I've seen him do his thing. You know, my take on Daniel's playing is that he's better off as a player than as a teacher. I find him to be a little out to lunch, like watching him talk and try to guide you through the ins and outs of what he's doing. But there's no denying the cat can hang. I mean, geez, he's if he's playing down there at Robert's Western World and all that stuff, that's J.D. Simo's old gig. That's hallowed ground. So to be invited to share the stage with the people that he's up there with, you know, at his age is really pretty amazing. Yeah. So yeah, so that's my take on him, Alex, is that not all great players are great teachers, and not all great teachers are great players. There's some, although it does make it hard to say, like, listen to me and do what I say if you don't like the way your teacher plays. So that can be a bit of a bummer, you know. But there is that old adage: those that can do, those that can't teach. I enjoy doing both, especially as I've grown old and weary. I've enjoyed sitting on my ass and teaching people a little bit more than I enjoyed lugging my crap. Too esoteric of an approach. Who, me or Daniel? What's his Daniel? The spacey kid. Me, I've got too esoteric of an approach. Okay, I'll take the criticism on. You know, I am kind of out to. I have my own rambling nature. So anyway, back to Bertha. You know, the way I would look at it is, you wanna try to make the changes, and if you get there a little early, oh no, haha, even Mayer. I think John Mayer's pretty grounded. Although watching him talk can be a little, he's a little out. He can be a little fast and loose with some stuff. It's gotten him in trouble over the years. He's a smart guy with an active mind. I can listen to John Mayer talk as long as he's not talking about himself. Because I think he's a beautiful, great musician. I just want to hear him talk about what turns him on about music. I don't need to And then I think he's actually, I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but I think he's actually addressed that over the years. Actually, I think he said he had a big ego for a long time, but he's playing with like the heaviest of the heavy folks, and so he's actually in a great position to just keep playing and making great music and doing a job. Great. Oh yeah, he does speak in metaphors. I do that. He does do that a lot. I do that too. But most of my metaphors, and sorry to my vegan friends, involve cooking like chunks of meat and stuff like that. Talking about and then they tell me like, "Hey Jack, you're talking to a vegan and you're talking about how to pepper your steak." Hey, there you are, Eric. That's right, it was you. So some of the things that I think we should talk about is, hey, as much as we all like this Garcia stuff, there are other players that are really essential to learning how to do other kind of textures and sounds and stuff like that. I think people are really at a disservice if they haven't gone down the path that leads towards David Gilmour, Mark Knopfler, and Jimi Hendrix. Okay, those guys, really, really powerful musicians. I grew up also, praying at the altar of Eddie Van Halen, and I don't think it did me one bit of harm. So I don't know whether or not late in life people can get into it, but man, as a child who had too much testosterone and adrenaline, that music was certainly wildly influential. And Eddie's guitar playing still to this day impresses and haunts me. And while I don't really ape too much of that stuff, some of my technique, my foundational technique and approach certainly comes from him. So if you guys are interested in who got me going, those are the guys. And Pete Townsend off of yeah, I'm done with my practice session. What does my practice session entail? Well, it depends, to be honest, Eric. Some days I come downstairs and I realize, oh shit, I've got to solo over this specific song with these specific changes, and I'm a little rusty on that or something like that. Or I go, I better figure out what I'm going to be doing. I got to figure out what I'm doing over top of melodic minor or something like that, which is a good example of stuff that like I'll sit down some days and I'll just come up with okay, let's ditch that. I'll sit down and just come up with playing over top of okay, it's just a diminished chord. Down and just work on just one particular tonality until it becomes more and more ingrained. All right, so today's little thing was that kind of spacey Dorian sound. I just was having some fun doing that because it's just such a, I was actually riffing out on that little, that was at the core of that little groove, and then I did that. Listen, a lot of Zeppelin, Josh Schmidt, a bunch of others, Elmore James. All great things to listen to. Can't go wrong with any of those cats. Zeppelin, the soloing approach from Jimmy Page, not really a voice that I identify so much with. Not that it wasn't amazing and beautiful and powerful and perfect for that band, but the riff writing and in particular the chord voicings and the overdubs and the studio gimmickry, well, not gimmickry, but chicanery of, you know, he's kind of, he and Brian May were kind of amazing back in the 70s in terms of the guitar army kind of approach. In particular, once you get into like physical graffiti and stuff like that. So, you know, kudos to you for finding some heroes, especially, I mean, Josh Smith is about as fine a player as he can be. So, you know, Josh Smith is really spectacular. He has unfortunately not been a mainstream player. Yeah, can I do the fast economy picking? Yeah, absolutely. You want me to show you right now? Let's take a look at that, okay? So the way I look at it is, let's ditch the looper here. We got to get to a slightly more overdriven sound. Let's see what I got here. Give me a minute, guys, and we'll do something like this. Okay, so let's. Okay, so the way that this style works is that when we're ascending or descending, and we have the opportunity to do 2 downstrokes on adjacent strings, that we take advantage of that. So let's look at a run like, okay, let's look at that. That's just a sweep, right? But there's one little moment where we're going to be coming back. So that right there, see how there's 2 economies, there's 2 strokes. 3 in a row. Right? Okay, or if we're coming descending and say, Eric liked to do groups of 5. So if we have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that ends with a downstroke. Then we would go, we get, so that's how you get, so we're doing double downs there. Should I even bother? Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason not to learn it, but I will say this, it's not the first style of picking I teach. I definitely think, okay, so I got to the end of your question rather. So should I bother to learn how to do economy picking? Yes, but not until you've got a really good grip on alternate, okay? I wouldn't make it like my de facto style, because I think anybody who actually does it enough would, if they were being honest, they would tell you that it's not the most rhythmically stable platform, and certainly one that I wouldn't hand that inherently it's like an unstable and element, right? It needs to be executed properly. Like the tendency is to rush when you do those 2 strokes. So let's say we're going, that was a double down between the A and the D string. So those double downs, right? The tendency is for them to rush. You go, as opposed to, okay, so when you add the double down in, right, I like to, at first, when I'm utilizing it, make a very profound accent with it. And that way I can make sure that rhythmically I'm on point. But you know, it can be a little bit much. Who are my go-to guys for online lessons? I don't take online lessons so much as I just listen to music that I love or players that I think are hot shit, and then I slow them down on my looper and I figure out what they're doing. So like Matteo Mancuso is somebody who's just jaw-droppingly capable. He's just, oh my god. So if you haven't checked out Matteo, you know, or you know, just I still go back and check out Eric Johnson riffs and licks and Eddie Van Halen stuff. I try to break that stuff down, but that's more for my own. That's more for my own edification and education. I'm honestly a little bit more interested in hybrid picking than economy picking. Okay, well then you got to get your Brett Mason, you know, like all that stuff. Where you going? That kind of stuff. So Brett, Josh Smith, and you know, Danny Gatton. He's probably like the, oh my god, you know, Danny Gatton guy. But you know, if you want to get into that, it's there. But I tend to like the flat pick a little bit more. When I use alternate picking and that, I pretty much can get away with what I'm looking for. Every now and then, I like to use this kind of. Oh well, you know, Philip Stacey is just about as nuts as like rock guitar can get if you're coming at it from the Hendrix SRV school of thought. I think he's a brilliant and powerful player who occasionally overshares his talents. In particular, I feel like he immediately rushes to the biggest, like, wild vibrato and kind of overdoes a lot of stuff. How POW? I didn't see what that said. So you know, like as powerful as he is, I kind of wish he would hold back a little bit more and save it for the last gear. You know, it's one thing if you start out and you're playing like let's go back to that sound. Let's say we're doing something like. Every moment that kid gets to do vibrato, it's like it's just so over the top. Now, granted, I cannot do that, so it's I have some like huge column of envy for his powers. Okay, but if I had them, I think I would be just a little bit less eager to share right off the jump. That's you know, so that kind of thing. So I would probably be doing it a little bit more chill so that there was someplace to go. I feel like he starts on 10 and plays on 10, and it's very powerful, but after a while it's kind of like reading somebody who's typing in caps or always shouting at you. It doesn't really have enough of a storytelling dynamics. It's just all power. Okay, so it's all gas, no brakes. And you know, he's incredible. I mean, how stupid do I feel being critical of him? But if I was going to be critical and anybody gave a shit about what I thought, that would be it. And he would be absolutely in his right mind to say, dude, you can't play half of what I can play, shut up. All right, so he's totally right, and I think I'd still be right. My opinion, which can't be right or wrong, is that he overdoes it too soon. He could do that later in the tune. But yes, so he'll occasionally do some of that stuff, but really what I'm seeing mostly is is ferocious right hand picking coupled with hammer-ons and pull-offs, and just an amazingly adept understanding of the blues scale. He's really, really fast and fluid with the blues scale. So I'm not a bluesman. You know, I didn't go right. A certified guitar player. Okay, I like all that stuff. I'm not trying to. I'm not. There's not false modesty. Literally, if you put me on a stage with a cat like that, I mean, I'm not fit to mop up the sweat, his sweat. Okay, so I happen to think that, you know, I can play, and I have good taste, or at least I have the good taste to not wipe out in public. You know. So if you want to get into the double down Eric Johnson thing, I think a good way to do it is to look at expanding the pentatonics and getting so let's get the vibe off of there, and we'll clean it up a little bit. So that kind of thing. What do we got here? Also, some of the guys that, Jose, I wish you could play like every great player, but there's enough time. Of course not. So that's the other thing you have to figure out is, you know, what are you prepared to give up in order to get what you want in life? And so to some extent, I'd say I've given up, you know, the pursuit of, like, the real aggressive pursuit of money. I mean, I'm smart enough to know that there's no money in playing music. There's an endless amount of joy, though, and I was fortunate enough to come from a comfortable enough background that my parents, I wasn't really raised. I was raised with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I'm a comfortable person who works hard, but I never made a lot of money, and music has been good to me, but not financially. You know, I mean, the best I ever did was when I was working in the ad agencies and stuff like that here in New York and doing jingle work. I had some pretty nice years then. But really, all I need is what I have. So I'm super happy and content with my choices. And fortunately, I started playing, chasing the sound of my heroes when I was a baby. So like when I was 10, 11, 12, I started like chasing after the Pete Townsend thing and the Eddie Van Halen thing, and to some extent Garcia. And I remember being so overwhelmed when I realized I could do like right. You know, that kind of thing. Oh, you'd rather have more freedom than money? Yeah, I agree, and the dichotomy between freedom and joy and money and poverty and all those, the way that all those things all kind of play into one another is very difficult to come to grips with, especially when you look at your kids and something like they don't have, they don't have what their friends have, or you don't have. Like I've got fucking duct tape holding the roof of my car together. I mean, it's sad and pitiful, and at the same time, it's totally a choice. Like I don't give a shit about my car. Like I'm not really hung up on that. This T-shirt, I've had it 16 years. It's fine. Like it works. It hides my disgustingly flabby and untrimmed body from the public. So, and I like the color. So good enough. All right. So I mean, the pursuit of musical happiness was more important to me than the pursuit of financial excess. I already came from enough financial security that I didn't really feel too stressed out about being like poor. I knew I would never be super rich doing what I'm doing, but I knew I would also not be poor. But that said, I can't just willy-nilly run around and do whatever I want to do. Got a Yankees baseball cap that I felt, all right, a jacket rather than, well, that's probably cool, yeah, man. So, hey, so let me show you a couple other little tricky tricks that you guys might not do, or like, that are more hard rock based. If you take like a unison bend, right, so that's bending C up to D and hitting D here, and going, try doing the same thing from B up to C, all right, and getting this effect. Really kind of a fun sound when you hear that. Okay, so let's get this again. All right, so we're gonna get like kind of that effect, but we're gonna bend into it. God, that's sloppy. Okay, so. So this kind of idea where we're going. That you hear that I hear in blues, but I don't know what it's called. I wish I knew. If you can send me like a link to a lick that it is. I mean, repeating bending licks in blues are pretty common, so it could be something as simple as, or that kind of thing, or that kind of thing. So repeating licks. Right, they're very fun. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about is like this bending into notes thing. It's for the E and B string. Okay. So let's look at what I'm doing here. Over top of like an E chord. So let's get a shuffle. Oh, let's do that. So what am I doing? I'm bending up towards or into. So the main move is if you come here at the 10th fret and the 12th fret and you hammer on, then pull off to the 11th fret and then quickly bend the B string back up. That's what we're doing. The idea is for us to create a sort of phony slide, you know? Yeah. What is that? So that's how I like to teach that, is this little lick here, where we come. Or we can take a look at the Star Spangled Banner. We'll do it out of the key of E. We don't need the shuffle. Right? Alright, so doing that. That's the point, Alex, is for it to sound like a slide. So we can do that with one note, or we can do that with two notes. That kind of thing. So taking the 6 and the flat 5 and bending them both up one fret and create this sound. Having fun with some blues, which is a lost art, I think. I don't think a lot of my students spend enough time actually playing just nice simple blues, just sitting around figuring out how to do things that are just like. Kind of getting a good shuffle or something like that, where they're just kind of. foundation in blues playing has served me well, I think. And funny enough, I started out playing metal and then definitely got turned on to blues by a friend of mine named Brian Gitkin, who plays in a great band called the Pimps of Joy Time, but he doesn't get to play nearly enough guitar in that group. But he's just an amazing pocket-oriented player who is just all about playing tasty licks back when we were kids, and he turned me on to just how important rhythm is. So what you guys have got to do is, if you want to be a better musician, what you want to do quickly, if you want to quickly improve your game, rather than learn, am I a jazz guy at all? No, not at all. No. So, I mean, I understand some of the fundamental elements of jazz, and I utilize some of the techniques and ideas that are at play there, but I actually don't really like to listen to jazz very much, so flame suit on. I'm just really not that big a fan of the game, especially jazz guitar. I don't mind like a couple of records by a couple of horn players, Miles and Coltrane, Sonny and all that stuff. All that shit's killer, especially the 40s and 50s. Cool and some bebop, but by and large, not really my thing, I gotta say. So nothing against the ideas behind those things, but I don't actually put it on and find it intriguing to me yet. I'm hoping for a late in life conversion or something like that, to be honest. But some of the ideas that I've heard and liked, I've immediately incorporated into my playing, but I would definitely never consider myself to be a jazz guy. No. But back to talking about gypsy jazz, that's different, Who's no Jerry? So do I have a gig in blues saloons? Oh, Django, yeah, Django is the monster. But that, to me, that's a different type of jazz. To me, I guess when I'm thinking of jazz, I think of, the big guys that are out there, and I don't really care too much for jazz guitar. So that in particular, like, I'm not really drawn to it. I do like Django Reinhardt though. Do I play in blues clubs in the city? No longer. No, I did that when I was younger. I sat in with bands from time to time and had a good time playing in the city, doing blues gigs. But no, I don't play in like a roots blues quartet. For me, I tend to, that's how I approach. I appreciate it in small doses, yes. But my approach to learning how to do some of these things was informed by, like I said, a really schooled friend of mine. It's just a great feel for music, a great rhythm. And what I was trying to say is, if you want to improve as a musician across the board quickly, what you want to do is look for the essentials that you're failing at and improve them, rather than saying like, oh, I'm gonna supercharge my harmonic minor chops, and even more fine-tuned, like, hey, I've got to learn how to play harmonic minor in F, something really specific. Rather than doing that, figure out how to play more in time. If your tempo sucks, it's going to suck across the board. So get your groove together, and by playing, just if you can sit down and just get a looper together where you're able to do like, so something where we're doing that 3, 4. Oh, it's backwards. What the hell? How did I do that? All right, we'll start again. 3, 4. Keep going backwards. I don't understand. Oh, there it is. No wonder. There we go. There's a button on this thing, and I'm dumb. Okay, so if you can get a looper together where it'll loop nicely, and then you play off of the looper. Right? Or maybe you just sit down and really lock in on that main groove for a long time. Sitting around and figuring out how to key in on the essential elements of music, like pitch. Pitch is one thing that, you know, guitar players think they've got it all figured out because there's these big wires that go across, you know, these frets, right? But once you're in the fret, you know, I see so many of my students, they're pulling down a little bit, or they kind of, or they're back here and they kind of moving around a little bit, or they just come in with tension in the fret. They're in the fret, but they're pressing. Okay. So bending into key, playing within the fret in tune is also an art. Like, I love doing things where I bend up into the note, but even when you're in the fret, you have to be conscious of whether or not you're pressing down too hard. Okay, white knuckling a D chord versus relaxing a D chord. Relaxed. White knuckle. Man, that beating is just awful. Tips on big. Oh wow. Okay, here. Bending with the pinky is the question. How do you bend with the pinky? The first thing you want to make sure you're doing is that you're not bending with the pinky's muscles. When you're bending, what you're really doing is creating a hinge with your wrist, and you're going to just hold this down and then move your wrist up. The arm does all the work, and this just stays fixed, okay? You're not pushing up from here. There's no way that this little wussy pinky finger is going to go, Okay, you don't want to push from here. You want to lock it down and then come and then just exert like a hinge with your, like that. Okay, you can do it with your fingers if you want. But I tend to, you'll see my wrist kind of comes up. See how, again, look what's happening behind this hinge that happens right here, this rotational element of the wrist. It's kind of part of vibrato. Let's work on that leg. See how the wrist is just kind of moving like that. So if you can remember how far you have to move it, so this is 2 frets. Whoop. I can't really, I can, I guess, but okay, so working on that, and you're all right. So that's my suggestion for bending with the pinky: is don't bend with the pinky, lock it down, and then bring it up with the wrist, just like you would. Okay, the other thing I do a lot of is I'll just slide. Sliding into the note, bending into the note, doing all that stuff. That is where the vocal sound starts to happen, okay? And, you know, don't neglect your middle pickup on your Strat, folks. It has that little clucky ducky kind of... bright enough without being this. Right? being fat and tubby. I mean, I like it, but this is pretty cool. Mix up your arpeggios, your scales. That's where it's at for sure. And get your blues stuff together, because that blues stuff is not available in any other way than learning blues songs. Okay, you can't sit down and say like, oh, I did this. I figured out all the scaly stuff and expect it to sound bluesy. It just doesn't. So commingling those things, like that's a cool thing. Like I try to teach folks. Like let's look at this G arpeggio. Something like that. Right? Go into the C chord like that. So 1 3 5 1 3 5 1 3 5. Okay. Now, that sounds very like, hello, I'm a classical guitar player, right? But what you can do is you can put a flat 3 before that. Right? And it sounds all of a sudden a little bit less like studied, I guess, right? So also you don't have to play it in 3 octaves. You could out there know this idea, this kind of thing where Garcia out of the key of G would go like over a G dominant sound. That kind of thing. So what's hip is that you're going doing these little pseudo chromatics between the 3rd and the 2nd, the root and the 7, the 5 and the 4, and then run back here. So really a hip little idea of it. So that's the other thing about his playing that I've incorporated a lot of the once you find a rhythmic idea, taking it kind of up the scale. So if you're going papa da do da 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 or right. Okay, so I guess it's about it. I've been going for an hour and 18 minutes. I don't think anybody's getting anything else. I haven't seen any questions for a long time. Probably time for me to get ready for my 4 o'clock. I'm gonna retire, but just wanted to say, hey, I hope everybody's having a good time with these things. And I get a lot of people asking me when they're coming. I don't know. They come when I get a cancellation, or I've got some time to burn, or I'm finished with my practice, or whatever. I figure, what the hell, I might as well, reach out to folks and see if there's any questions or anything I can do for anybody. Absolutely, Alex. Thank you for tuning in, and anybody else, hey, thank you very much for sticking around and taking part in the conversation with me. So signing off from Brooklyn, New York, this is Jack Devine, over and out, and thanks again for tuning in to another episode of, or session of, oh, thanks, man, tuning into another episode of, or I guess session for, oh, no, you don't have endless questions, man. That's cool, Alex, and you, dude, Patrick, thank you, man. Thanks again. It's awful nice to kind of, meet people, and it's not often that oh yeah, totally. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do this, but the funny thing is my wife is encouraging me to do this, so I think it's kind of fun. So, hey, real quick, before I go, everybody take a second and look at like a nice C-shaped arpeggio out of the key of G. What you want to start doing is thinking about like walking up to it like this a little bit more. I see a lot of people hung up on their playing because they play one finger to a fret. Okay? So don't get too hung up in the one finger per fret. Maybe sometimes it's better to keep a finger like I like keeping my pinky around and being able to stretch out a little bit more. This is also a nice thing. When we hear the third, fifth, and the sixth, what shape is that? You're saying this shape? Clunky with that shaper lull. I don't know what that means. So that sixth degree is really nice to add. Right? I love the sixth. All right, I'm out. Take care, everybody. See you soon.